So here's the thing. There's a natural progression from open chords, like this, to playing bar chords, like this. And I think a lot of the times once we learn our bar chords, we tend to just completely forget about our open chords because bar chords are a sign of a more advanced guitar player. And although that's somewhat true, and yeah, bar chords are a bit harder to master, we shouldn't forget about our open chords because one of the most beautiful things about the guitar compared to other instruments is the fact that we have access to open strings. Open strings are something we should strive to continue to incorporate in our guitar playing past just our basic open chords. And I'm going to show you why the key of E is one of the best keys to be able to play some extended open chords up the neck and create sounds that you can't create in any other key. Let's look at this basic chord progression in the key of E, first just using open chords and bar chords that most of you probably already know. The chords I played were open E. I played a bar chord at the 4th fret. That's a G sharp minor, for those of you that aren't aware, and I'm using an E minor shaped bar chord to make it. Then I played open A. Then I played a bar chord rooted on the 5th string. That's a B. And then I finished it off with this same chord, just moving it up here to the 7th fret to end on a different sounding E, okay? So we had the open E and then resolved it on the higher sounding E just for something a little bit more unique. Now I think that sounded pretty good and I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, but we did have to use a lot of bar chords. And I think we could make it sound even better if we utilize more open strings like this. So if you didn't recognize those chords, that's totally okay because that's what this video is about. I played my open E chord the exact same way as the first example, but on the G sharp, I didn't use a bar chord. I played this. It definitely sounds more interesting, I think. Then for the A chord, I played this. For the B chord, I played this. And then my last E chord, I ended way up here on this guy. I don't know about you guys, but to me that sounded a lot more connected, almost like each one of those chords had more things in common and they all grouped together really, really nicely. The transition from one chord to the next never felt jumpy like it did to me in the first one. Something that took me a really, really long time to understand about the guitar is that not all keys and not all chords are created equal. See, the guitar is a big grid. We go from low to high when we move this way, and then we go from low to high when we move this way. Unlike the piano where it's just a big line. So when we learn our basic open chords like E and G and D and C, we don't really have any regard for the chord voicing. And all a chord voicing really is just the order of the notes in a chord. On piano, when we learn a chord, it's always the same order. We always have the 1, then the 3, then the 5 of a chord from lowest to highest. On guitar, that's not the case. For example, let's take that E chord. The first thing we'll notice about the E chord when we strum it, technically we actually have 6 notes because we strummed all 6 strings. Now, in a basic major or minor chord, we're actually just gonna have 3 notes repeated multiple times and kind of in a random order. So in E, the order of our notes are E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. If we think about those in terms of their numbers relating to the key E, so if E is 1, we get 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. And again, if you were learning this chord on a piano or a music theory, it would just go in the order of 1, 3, and 5. So basically it just makes it sound a little bit different on guitar. And let's take a look at a different open chord so I can show you that they're all a little bit different. Let's take C, for example. Unlike the E, the C chord, we omit the 6th string or the low E string. So we only strum 5 strings. So we have 5 notes instead of 6, but that's still more than the 3 notes of a basic major or minor chord. So again, we're gonna have some duplicated notes, and again, they're gonna be in kind of random order. In C, the order of the notes goes C, E, G, C, E. If we think about that in terms of their scale degrees, that's 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. So that's actually kind of a nice order. It's really sequential. It's a very pleasant sounding chord, but it was different than the E, and the E is still a good sounding chord. So when we're starting off learning guitar, we learn all these open chords, you know, E, G, D, A minor, C, F, in whatever version you know how to play F. And we never actually talk about chord voicings the way they do on piano. We just learn those chords because they're the easiest to learn and they can get you playing guitar right away. So this idea of chord voicings may be unfamiliar and scary to you. The good news is for this, you don't actually really need to know any theory. I'm just going to show you two basic shapes so that you can play both major and minor chords in the key of E. If we don't break any rules in music, the key of E is made up of 7 chords. We get E, that's 1. We get F sharp minor, that's 2. G sharp minor is 3. A is 4. B is 5. C sharp minor is 6. And then we wind up with D sharp diminished, which is 7. That's not one we see very often. And then back to E for 8 or 1. So let's look at how we can play those chords just by using 2 shapes. So all your major chords are going to look just like this open E chord, with the E being in the first position, or open position, just meaning your first finger's at the first fret. The A happens here in position 6 because our first finger's at the 6th fret. The B chord now happens in position 8, and your E chord repeats again all the way up in position 13. Your minor chords are going to use a single shape as well. We're actually just going to omit that D sharp diminished chord because we don't need it for our purposes today. Your F sharp minor is going to look like this. Ring finger, 4th fret A string, pinky 4th fret D string, index finger 2nd fret G string. This same shape is going to be used for all 3 of our minor chords. F sharp minor is here in 2nd position. G sharp minor is here in 4th position. C sharp minor is all the way up in 9th position. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I would super appreciate it if you could reach down there and click the like button. By clicking the like button, it lets YouTube know that you're enjoying this video and it helps to spread it to more people, which helps my channel to grow, enabling me to create more free content like this. Also, if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future content. It does benefit me, but it's also going to benefit you because I'm going to be doing some really cool giveaways in the last part of this year that you don't want to miss. All right, so you guys know the chords now. We've got E, we've got F sharp minor, we've got G sharp minor, we've got A, B, C sharp minor, and then we're just going to skip and go all the way back up to E. You can put those in any order, and I think they're going to sound really awesome. You might be thinking to yourself now, okay, this is really cool, but they sound kind of different than normal chords, and they might not work all the time. Yes, you're totally right. These do have a totally unique sound compared to your basic open chords like this. And they're not always going to fit in every situation. They're really, really unique though, and here's why. You're going to notice that in every single one of these chords, you're covering the A string, the D string, and the G string, while letting the E string, the B string, and the high E string ring out. Now, if you go back to the beginning when I talked about the basic notes in an E chord, you're going to notice E and B are both in that chord. They happen to be the 1st degree and the 5th degree of the scale. The 1 and the 5 of any key happen to be the safest sounding notes. You can play literally any chord in a key against those notes and they're going to sound good. Check this out. In that example, you heard all the basic chords in the key of E and their most simple versions possible against a single droning E note. Here's what they sound like against a B note. So what's really happening while we're playing all these chords is we're constantly ringing out the notes E and B from below and above, creating this really, really unique drone kind of sound. And by having the low E on the bottom all the time, it's really, really rooting it back to E. So although these aren't traditional major or minor chords, and yes, they break rules, and yes, they technically have weird names, we don't need to talk about that today. What I really want you guys to take away from this is the fact that in the key of E, you can create these really, really unique sounds that I hope inspire inspire you to make something new. Another really awesome way to take advantage of open strings on the guitar is by learning how to use the capo properly, and if that's something you're interested in, click right here. As always, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention in such a noisy world. I hope you take what you learned today and go out there and make some music.